morning, everybody. Mestre Sukuri coming to you from Tokyo, Japan. Mestre Vibes Podcast, episode 100. Believe it or not, we made it. 100 episodes. Now, today, I'm going to take my time doing this because I've got a lot to cover. But I want to thank you all for joining me on this very special episode. 100 episodes have given me a chance to reflect, to think, and to really see how I've grown over the last 15 years. And this is important because 13 years ago, I was awarded the rank of Mestre by Mestre Accordion. And people who know me know that I'm very interested in philosophical, spiritual, mental, and more than anything, professional growth. And it's really important for me as a Mestre of Capoeira to look at myself and see how I've grown. And I'd like to share some of these things with you today in this 100th episode of Mestre Vibes Podcast here on Patreon. Today we have a fun and heartfelt podcast. For this milestone episode, I invited members from my international and global community to send me their questions. Some are deep, some are playful, and I'll do my best to answer them all. And if you stick around until the end, I have a very special surprise to share with you. Something close to my heart. So make sure you stick around to the end of the podcast. But first, I want to take a moment to thank everyone on Patreon who has supported this journey. Because of your support, Mestre Vibes has grown into one of the highest ranked Capoeira Patreon groups in the world. It's amazing what can happen when we work together to grow and to create. Now let's jump into the questions you sent me for this 100th episode. Question 1. How has living in Japan changed me, both as a person and as a Capoeira Mestre? If you know me, you probably know this story, but when I came to Japan, I never thought of coming to Japan. I actually thought of Tokyo, like a major metropolis, such as Paris or London or New York. I never thought I was coming to Japan, but more than anything, coming to Tokyo to start a capoeira group and to teach capoeira. So for me, coming to Japan was actually very interesting because I never thought I would stay here for more than a couple of years. But once I met my wife, everything changed. I fell in love with teaching capoeira here in Japan and in Asia. And today, I think the biggest way that Japan has changed me is it's helped me to outgrow a lot of the personal conflicts I had in me before coming to Japan. And it's not that Japan did that, it's that I was able to create a community for myself that I was constantly able to reflect on and grow, self-growth that allowed me to do that. And I think this happens a lot more for me here in Japan because there's a lot of things I didn't have to worry about. I know this sounds crazy, but as an American, there's a lot of things that we lack in the United States. Of course, there's a lot of things that we have, but the general safety here, the full medical coverage, the ability to focus on what I want to do has really helped me to grow, not only as a person, but as a mestre. I've honestly found peace in my heart and in my soul because of the relationships I've built here and the life I've built for myself. So if I had to say, how has Japan changed me? I would say Japan didn't change me, but it created a place for me to grow and to find where I belong. Question 2. Do you believe there are students whose lives I've truly helped transform through capoeira, maybe even saved? This is a very powerful question, and to influence people, to guide people, to be a mentor is something that I think is naturally part of teaching. But for me, as a capoeira master, it's something that I really have to think about. I constantly think about how I affect the people around me, especially my students and especially the kid students. I feel that the biggest contribution I've done is I've been able to show Japanese kids and adults a different way of interacting as human beings. In my academia, you come in, even, no matter where you're from, I hug you. I show you warmth that comes from this Latin American cultural background that I come from. When I travel, it's normal for me to be a warm, loving person. Over the years, I've had to be able to decide who to give that affection to. But once you come into my academia, you get that warmth and affection. And I feel that this has influenced a lot of my Japanese students. And I say this because kids who were here when they were small and now are adults, when they see me, I've mentioned that a lot of times they just run up to me, they hug me, and these are grown adults now, 24, 25, 28. And they just love to say in Japanese, like, Mestre Daisuki, which is, Mestre, I love you. And I feel blessed that I've been able to influence them, to be able to connect to their affection and emotion in a Latin way. So a lot of times I'll say that a lot of the kids that came here have grown up in a bicultural environment, because Japan still has a lot of, Japan still doesn't have a lot of opportunity for Japanese people to mix with foreigners. Don't confuse what you see on the internet with what's really going on here. As I've mentioned, my son, he's 18 now, but when he was junior high, he had said most of his friends had never talked to a foreigner outside of their required English class. So it's still rare for regular Japanese people to interact. If you're outside of the environment or the sphere of where foreigners are involved in Japan, it's rare that you will talk to a foreigner. So I feel that me being able to create this environment, and all the kids who grow up here grow up with exposure to a lot of different foreigners from the international community. And this has created a group of young Japanese who don't look at foreigners like aliens or like something special or something lower, but just as other human beings. And I believe that's something I've been able to transmit to my students, adults as well. Question number 3. These days, capoeira often reflects the group or the mestre more than the deeper cultural traditions. How have I responded to this shift, and what role do I play in preserving the roots? Guys, this is such an interesting question, because each mestre is affected by their ego, by their goals, by their visions, by their delusions, just as much as I am. And each mestre or master will try to lead their group as best as they see it, for whatever reason or no matter what baggage they're carrying. And I can only do the same. I'm hoping that by me focusing what I consider fundamentos, especially in Asia, where there are so few Brazilians involved in capoeira, I think the hardest thing for me is to do it. Not the hardest thing, but my goal is to communicate that Brazilian cultural nuance in the capoeira environment here in Asia. And this comes, of course, from a heavy involvement with the Brazilian community for over 36 years, but also cultural adaptation and understanding and the fundamentals of capoeira that, as best as I can, I believe I'm transmitting. So that's how I try to keep the cultural traditions alive, by being aware that they exist and coming from an educated and culturally involved position and teaching that in Asia. So my goal in Asia is always to be able to share those cultural traditions as best as I can. Next question. A little bit funny. Do I like soba or udon? So when I first came to Japan, I didn't have any job, no visa, so I had to get a job teaching English. And when I did that, it took a while to get my first paycheck. So I was, being careful with the money that I had saved. So I was eating a lot of udon. And after about 6 months, I'd lost about 10 kilos in my first 6 months in Japan. So udon for a while, for about 10 years, I couldn't really eat udon anymore. But today I'm back and I love udon and soba. Honestly, I can't beat Japanese ramen. I love ramen. I don't eat as much as I'd like to because it's a lot of calories, but there's a lot of great places around that I'm able to get some delicious Japanese ramen. Question number 5. From an educational perspective, do I think the materials and guides I've created can preserve the essence of capoeira for future generations? I'm going to have to say this clearly. Technology is a blessing. I have monthly subscriptions to ChatGPT, Kittl, which is a design software, and CapCut. All of these applications and technologies allow me to communicate, organize, create, and put out more material in a fraction of the time. I feel these 3 applications help me. It's like having 2 personal assistants or a personal assistant who listens and gets everything I want to get done and saves me a lot of time. So I embrace a lot of the technology. I embrace a lot of it because we have the opportunity. When I first started capoeira, I've told this story. I was at a roda, and after the roda, I'd heard this song that I really loved, and I asked a friend of mine to write down the words, and he had said that, my penmanship isn't very nice. Later, I'd found out that this person, for lack of access, was not very good at academic writing. On the verge of, at that time, a lot of people were still unable to get access to education. So he wasn't illiterate, but he didn't have the level that he wanted to be able to write down the song lyrics for me. So a lot of the things that a lot of the information, a lot of the old mestres could have put down was not available. Even if you look back, like, for example, everybody has Instagram with all their capoeira. Most of my capoeira crazy moves don't exist because no one had an iPhone in hand or be able to record at the moment. So now I have very little material of when I was young and all over the place doing crazy capoeira because I didn't have access to it. My friend would show up to the street rodas in Shibuya with one of those 8mm cameras. So it was really difficult and challenging. So today I do my best, like especially here on Patreon and on YouTube, is to communicate and preserve as much information as I can. And I've got a lot of information coming up, and a lot of it is because of these technological evolutions. Just some of the stuff that I created for Capoeira University 5 years ago, I'm going to be updating and putting back on Patreon because now the technology is going to allow me to directly translate with subtitles some of the interviews. so people can see for themselves. But that's another thing. There's a lot of stuff coming up that I'm making for my Patreon community, and it's going to be amazing. Every day, the technology helps me to preserve and make my little contribution to the capoeira world for future generations. Number 6. What is your all-time favorite and most used capoeira movement, and what makes it so special to you? Guys, I can't do this anymore, and I teach it, but no one seems to do it the way I do or the way I was taught to do it. In our group, we call it asoichi, or some people call it shibata. And this move, I used to use it, and I would just nail people with it all the time. I would jump across the roda and try to hit people with it. I would do it from a really close, like 1 meter game distance, and I would do it. And of course, there's no videos of it, but that was probably my favorite move of all time, because that one would just let me just be an explosive, dynamic, coming out of nowhere capoeira attack or escape. So shibata, some people call it, or we call it asoichi. Number 7, what does the berimbau mean in capoeira to me? Berimbau is not only the symbol of capoeira, but it's what adds harmony to the music. A lot of people, I don't think they think about it, but it's like having a guitar or a cavaquinho. The berimbau, if used correctly, if the people sing on the tune of the berimbau, it'll give the capoeira roda harmony, something that a lot of people don't understand, and it's what I come across the most. People play the berimbau, generally it's untuned. The berimbaus will be generally not matching or not done in a musical way. And when the people sing, they don't listen to the berimbau. They just sing from what they've copied, but that's normal. But this is one of the reasons I say that we have to put out material, because a lot of times people copy and then they take that as like, that's how it's supposed to be, and they never evolve into the next level. And evolving means that you learn how the music works and how capoeira works. And for me, the berimbau is a great example of that evolution. You sing on the tune, on the rhythm, and you sing on the harmony of the berimbaus. So you have to learn how to use the berimbaus. And when this happens, I always talk about how capoeira music creates the audio representation of the ashe we create in capoeira. So if the music's good, it penetrates my soul. It penetrates every aspect of who I am as a capoeirista. It connects me to all the capoeiristas, not only in the roda, but throughout time. It connects me to the old mestres and mestras. It connects me to everything that has contributed to the growth of capoeira. For me, the berimbau is such a simple word, but it connects me through time, through space, and through passion and love to everybody who's ever been involved in capoeira. Question 8. Why did I choose capoeira as a profession? Guys, as some of you know, I've done a lot of work in academics, Master's Latin American Studies, San Diego State University, Master's International Relations, Waseda University here in Japan. These things are all ways that I've built to become what I consider a professional capoeira teacher. And you cannot say you're professional if you don't act professionally. But there was just a time in my life, and I talked about this in The Path of Capoeira, my first book, which was released in 2012, is it matches me, and it's something that I find a unique connection for me philosophically and spiritually to capoeira. Why did I choose capoeira as a profession? Capoeira chose me. We chose each other. And it would be impossible on a short podcast to explain that, but it just matches me. Question number 9. Somebody asked, what is the best way to keep students motivated to learn everything Capoeira has to offer? Guys, maybe this is just my take, but I don't think we as teachers need to motivate anybody. The rules at my Academia door say to the kids and to the adults, you are responsible to motivate yourself in Capoeira. I honestly think people are lucky if they're involved in Capoeira, and they're the ones who are blessed if they have access to it. I don't try to motivate my students at all. If you don't like it, there's the door. Why? Because this puts the responsibility on the students. Capoeira is for everybody, but not everybody is for Capoeira. And I really had this conversation recently with some of my students, because I said, what happens is people come to Capoeira, but they don't understand how much dedication and how much you have to put into it. When you do karate, you just have to show up and do the physical movements. When you do breakdancing, you have to show up and just do the physical movements. When you do BJJ or yoga, you just have to show up and do the physical movements. Yeah, I know people are going to say, well, there's a lot of different things. Yeah, come on, there really isn't. But when you do Capoeira, you're expected to dance, sing, martial arts, philosophy, deep historical, cultural understanding, music, basic, even the most basic capoeiristas should be able to play berimbau, pandero, atabaque, heko, agogo. You have so many things that are part of capoeira, not to mention all the other things that are associated. For example, I do pandero juggling, dança afro, orisha dance. I play with the navalinha, which is a straight razor blade for capoeira, the different types of games, not to mention frevo and everything else that's involved in what I do in capoeira at a professional level. Capoeira really, really requires a commitment on many different aspects and levels. And this is why I think a lot of people leave capoeira, is because once they realize that it's too much of an investment. This is why I stopped motivating students. If you don't like it, find something else. The people who really love capoeira and want to be involved will stay. And you need to focus on those people, not on everyone who walks through the door. You still have to give the best service and do everything for everybody. But if you expect you to motivate students, then you're just basically babysitting. I don't. I lead by example. I do the best I can, and it's working for me. When people realize that you're not just there to entertain them, they're either going to do one of two things. They're going to get motivated and do it, or they're going to leave. And you're better off without them, because it opens space and time for you to focus on the people who really mean something and are really focused on it. Capoeira is for everyone, but not everyone's for capoeira. Number 10, what does it mean to create and hold a roda for me personally and for my community? Sometimes I have a friend, big shout out to Gavin, who is back in the United States, and he is an ordained Buddhist monk in Zen, and he is trying to get his projects moving and everything, and I wholeheartedly feel connected with him and blessed to have him as a friend, because I understand what he's doing. For lack of a better explanation, I see myself as a monk or a priest or a guru as a mastery. Mastery means you have to be like all of those things for capoeira, not in a religious sense, but in a philosophical, spiritual, and leadership role. A master is actually the lead of a capoeira group, capoeira students, but you're also like a guru. You're also like people look up to you for information, for showing a better way of approaching life and doing all those different things. So when I hold a roda, for me, I have to encompass everything I do into that moment. And as I mentioned in the last question, there's so many things and so many aspects of capoeira. How do I put that all into the roda? Of course, I don't do it all at one time. I just do my best to build on each and every roda so that the students can grow with capoeira. And as we know, it takes time. It's not going to happen in one roda, but I'm hoping that roda and each roda that I do energizes people with the positive energy of capoeira, and that it helps them become more in touch with the capoeira and all the axé and everything that I mentioned today. That they can, like Mestre Linguiça says, when the beating bow plays and when a song is sung, he feels goosebumps and chills go up his back, and he just feels like it's magical. That's what I'm trying to create as best as I can. It doesn't work every time. It's a process. But for me, the roda not only symbolizes that transmission and connection to everybody in capoeira, past, present, and future, but it also helps to amplify that feeling of community. Question 11. How is your worldview as a mestre different from most people? I think I pretty much answered that with today's questions. I see things as a mestre of capoeira. You're blessed with a lot of trials and challenges throughout your career of teaching capoeira and being involved in capoeira, as it is a uniquely Brazilian cultural experience. And teaching capoeira and being a mestre, you see the world through the three main aspects of capoeira: malícia, mandinga, malandragem. And as I've mentioned before in other podcasts, this is based on Brazilian or Latin American fatalism. It's a type of philosophy that makes you very realistic to the world. You don't glamorize things. You don't sugarcoat things. You see things for what they are in a lot of ways, and you learn to live with that negative. You look at things already in a negative way because you're untrusting. But that skill as a master, you learn to use to see things as clear as possible. Or at least for me, I try to see things as clearly as possible as a master. I don't glorify, I don't sugarcoat, I talk straight, but this comes from that worldview as a mestre of capoeira, from the way I've developed my malícia, my mandinga, and my malandragem, from the philosophical and spiritual base of capoeira. Question number 12. If I could ask Mestre Pastinha or Mestre Bimba one question, what would it be? Would they be happy with the state of modern day capoeira? What are their opinions on these giant groups, on the way their names have been used, and what would they think if they could see how things are now? Question 13, last one. What are the new goals as a mestre for my academia, my group, and the world of capoeira? Anyone who knows me knows I can't stop creating. I often reflect on my own capoeira mentor, Mestre Boagente, my padrinho, like a godfather. Even at 80, he remains a force of nature and a deep source of inspiration. Today, I hope I was able to answer these questions with honesty and with a lot of love and axé. I always welcome more questions. Keep them coming. As you know, this is episode 100, so you know I'm still going to be making more episodes. And now, I kind of feel I should have a drum roll. The surprise I promised. I'm proud to officially announce a change in the 25th Annual Capoeira Zoador Batizado. The title for our next Batizado in September in Tokyo is Vivencia, the lived wisdom of Capoeira Mestres. Special guest, Mestre Boa Gente. September 12th to September 15th at Capoeira Zoador Academy in Tokyo. 4 unforgettable days of immersive capoeira training, cultural exchange, and celebration. This is not just a batizado, it's an encounter of generations, a deep dive into tradition, strategy, and lived philosophy. Mestre Boa Gente, now 80 years old, is a living treasure. With more than 70 years of experience, he brings powerful presence, deep musicality, and a warm, direct teaching style. Don't miss this opportunity to learn from one of Capoeira's greatest voices. Event highlights: Friday, September 12th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., opening roda, questions and answers, Q&A. Saturday, workshops. Sunday, workshops. Monday, 1 p.m., Batizado, 25th Annual Batizado, and then 5 p.m. at Capoeira Zoador. We will also celebrate the release of my newest book, Vivencia, the Live Wisdom of a Capoeira Mestre, Handbook to Being a Happy and Successful Mestre or Mestra. Paperback editions will be limited, but they will be available in both English and Japanese. My dear friend Marquinhos will be here playing live samba, beautiful energy, and a powerful close. This event will allow us to come together and share the beauty of not only Brazilian culture, but the presence of Mestre Boa Gente and maybe some other special guests, and celebrate the hard work and passion for 25 years of Capoeira Zoador in Tokyo. Let me know if you want to come. Email me here, and hopefully I will see you at the event. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for joining me on Patreon supporters. I'm going to keep going. Next week, episode 101. And here we go. Lots of love, lots of peace, lots of capoeira.